So I've just returned from the Milwaukee camp with Adam Mizner in Milwaukee. It was a lot. It was just so much that happened. There was a pretty good turnout. Apparently a few less than they had expected, but somewhere near 100 people. A lot of familiar faces from previous years. Some that I had only seen at the last Mizner camp in Milwaukee, and some that I'd seen at like the little Curtis workshops that were happening between. It's one of those where they you just get to know them just kind of through these events, and maybe meet up online a little bit here and there, but it's kind of fun to see their progress. And anyway, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So going into this camp, saying I felt prepared isn't really accurate. It was more of I felt like I had done the best job I could to prepare for it. And my only thoughts really going in were just don't give up, basically. Because knowing how he runs a camp, there's going to be times when, you feel like quitting. You feel like dropping your arms. You feel like shifting out of alignment and shaking something out. So my only thought was, don't do that. And it's hard to say if this year was more brutal than other years, because of course the most recent one feels like it was the hardest one, but this one really did feel, this was a lot of work. But it was also a ton of fun, and it was lots and lots of progress. So in general, the camp started off where he started taking us into kind of, if you want to say, stage 2 of the training process. So a bunch of things that I'd actually never done before. All new standing and opening stuff, and I'd never seen a lot of these things before. Some I had heard about, but to actually do them was a whole nother challenge altogether. Then partway through the week, I think he started to realize maybe that was a little ahead of where we're at. And so he went back to kind of stage 1 with bits of stage 2 kind of tossed in here and there. But it was really fascinating to get kind of a sneak peek at what's ahead a little bit. And it was also really good to I got a lot of good critique and a lot of corrections, I actually got a lot of hands-on. So I'm pretty sure I've said it in these before, but for these camps and workshops, I like to position myself way up to the front, and oftentimes in the middle if I can. And that's not to like kick other people out of that spot, but I like to hear and see everything that I possibly can. I paid money for this. I want to do it. I've been working my ass off to try and do this stuff better. So I want to try and get the most out of it that I can. I want to really absorb all these things and try to embody all this stuff that's being tossed at us at these camps, because it's dense. There's a ton of stuff being thrown at you. Now, again, the crowd was pretty big, and so as we get there in the morning, and I'm still sipping on my coffee and saying hi to people and whatnot, I could see the crowd kind of slowly mingling towards like the little stage platform thing that was up front. And almost right away I thought, I better go snag my spot, And I don't know if it was because I was in that spot or because I don't know the reason why. And I'm not all that concerned with the reason why, but I did get a lot of hands-on. He would oftentimes bring me up onto the little stage to demonstrate or to, I'm not exactly sure the reason why. But anytime he'd bring me up there, I would do exactly what he told me to do as best as I could, because now I got a bunch of eyes on me. So like one of them was, if you know what yin yang palm is, he brought me up for yin yang palm, which that one's tough. And so that was a bit of pressure, And then again, he brought me on for one of the exercises that I had never done before. I'm pretty sure this was the first time I'd ever actually got into this posture, and he brings me up front to do it. And I'm just trying to, just repeating to myself, all right, this, check on this, all right, be aware of this, really soak that attention here, and I just kept going for it. And I think it paid off. He didn't like slap me in the back of the head or anything. So there's just so much to go through. So this is going to be just kind of a little bit all over the place. My apologies. I don't have like a script or anything. I don't really think about what I'm going to say ahead of time. I just kind of bit after a little bit of caffeine. But something that was, it was so, this whole camp was surreal is kind of the best way I can put it. And surreal in the way that it was all really good. It's just little moments kept happening where I couldn't, if I thought about it ahead of time, I would have probably been like nervous or something or anxious about that thing happening. But when it just hits you in the face or just approaches you that way, it's a lot easier, and I can chill a little bit easier that way. So I had a ton, like way more than I expected, people come up to me and say, I like your videos. I like the way you do this, or I like the way you break things down, or you're really objective. And that was one I didn't see coming. It was from like everybody. People that had never done this before. Some people, this was their first camp. Somebody specifically said this was their first camp and they were on the fence about it, and then a little while ago they saw one of my videos and decided, why not, and pulled the trigger. I was on cloud nine hearing that. That was so cool. And just all sorts of things like that. And I had instructors come up and say they liked my videos. I had all types of people just came up and were really excited, and that was really awesome. It was humbling how many people there had seen these. And honestly, it was just so cool. I'm so excited still about it. And as I'm talking to this little black box, it's hard to imagine that a bunch of people watch this. It's that part's so crazy. The other part that was surreal was getting that much kind of one-on-one and hands-on with my main instructor, with Adam Mizner, the big head honcho, the Sifu. Like, dude, yeah, he would be explaining something, and man, I would be there like just absolutely trying, and maybe I'd get like a hint of something, and I'd worry like, am I really doing it? I'm gonna just keep trying. Connect to this, and then move your hands like this, and I'm like, dang, that's really hard. And as I was thinking things like that, and he would look down at me and, here, come up, put your hand here, feel exactly what I mean, because it's very, very often that what he says is meant to be taken literally. And even the pretty outlandish sounding things, he's being literal. So he wanted me to feel how literal he was being. And he wasn't lying. So, when he was having me feel a connection or feeling this thing release and the way things shifted, or certain things spreading away from one thing from another, it was all real, and it was so helpful to get to feel those things, because hearing it, I can try it, I can kind of keep the thought in the head and then try to apply it, and then seeing somebody do it, like, okay, maybe now you have a more realistic approach to it, but then getting hands-on and then feeling it, and vice versa. He would like dig his like thumb in somewhere and be like, do this, and then I'd get like a smidge, just this tiniest smidge, and you're like, yep, a little bit, yep, good. And things like that are gold. It was like just striking gold every time he would do that. And so I'm very, very grateful to have had that opportunity to get hands-on and get that kind of experience and exposure. And yeah, he kept bringing me up front over and over and over again. And there was that first initial thought of, oh crap, everybody's looking at me, don't mess this up. And as soon as that thought came into my mind, I would just try to kind of squash it. Not even like fight it, just be like, no, just follow the instruction. You were brought up here for God knows why. Who cares? Just do what he's asking you to do. And if you don't do it, well, then he's going to let you know, and then you can do it better because he's going to tell you how to do it better. And yeah, there was a lot of that. And it was longer durations of things. And maybe he's done this in previous years and I just have a bad memory for it. But for example, standing posture. My typical standing posture time is like 25 minutes. These were probably an hour at least, just kept going and kept going and kept going. I wasn't looking at the clock or like trying to gauge the time, so my sense of time might be a little bit warped, but man, it felt a lot longer than normal. And just trying to constantly keep doing the process is a boatload of work. And it was really fun to be in the crowd with generally the same people surrounding me just day in and day out, and would be struggling through these things, and I would hear somebody's breath like kind of start to give, like it starts to quiver, or they start breathing a little heavier, or I see an arm come lower, and every now and again I would whisper like, no, you got this, like keep going, keep at it. Just the word that goes through my mind, which is like semi-Australian accent, is stay. And it's kind of become my way of reminding myself of exactly what I'm doing, why I'm doing it, why it's important. And so I feel overall revitalized. That was an incredible experience. If you're ever on that fence, kind of teetering of whether to do it, just go. Be ready for work. Be ready for things to be tough, but accept it, and you won't regret it. You really won't. There's just so much. New ways of pulling things open, and new perspective on things, and a new focus on some of these same exercises that I've been doing. I just wasn't doing them well enough, or I was like unintentionally blending two things together, and so the focus was kind of muddied, and it's just bleh. So I got a lot of great clarification on that, and especially with shoulders. So almost right away, I think it was the first day, I found out that I've been doing shoulders wrong. Now, if you're in the system, you've heard this before, we're all doing it wrong. The way to get better is to do it less wrong. But I mean, I was doing it more wrong than I should have. So, I was, in doing it wrong, I was probably tightening up certain things around the shoulder, and it's just, it wasn't as good as it should be. So that new focus on those exercises, I've really brought into my daily practice, and I'm hitting those things hard, because I gotta undo all the things that I just tightened up. Plus I want to progress. I want to really open my shoulders. I want to really open the quad, which is harder than I thought. My quad will move, but to get them to, that's hard. But damn, I'm gonna try. So many interesting and good people, and to catch up with them after sometimes a year, sometimes more, a couple years, and to kind of see that watermark, that progress just building up over years, and you go to touch hands with somebody and you're like, okay, you've gotten a little better at this. And yeah, it was good. And so we would start at like 9:30, and kind of do a couple, not necessarily easygoing, but some of the easier stuff, just basic, I'd say. And then, bam, right into something that's going to be difficult, pretty hard, and then boom, steps it up a notch, and then we have like a little break, a little rest, and we'd all go up and sit in front of the stage, and he would just go. He would just start ranting about what it takes for this, or what really makes this, or or chewing us out for not being sincere enough, or you name it. But it was really info dense, and not info dense in the same way as like a college lecture where you're sitting there like, oh, I gotta memorize all this stuff, but ways to shift your internal paradigm to better suit the training. And it was very enjoyable. And at one point, I think this might have been like the last day or something, but he had a dry erase board, and he was writing all this stuff down. He says, okay, so these three things we're looking to balance, and then that process moves into this, and then that is this, and then this and this and this, and he was kind of charting it all out. And in a lot of cases, this would be something that you want to like, okay, I gotta write this down, so I know it. But as he's explained a lot, and I've really come to respect this perspective a lot, is that knowing that chart, or knowing the whatever, like kind of book smarts for the lack of a better term, isn't going to actually improve you. That isn't it. And knowing what's on the whiteboard isn't going to just spring you forward leaps and bounds. It's good stuff to know, and it's kind of cool to see it all laid out, and it kind of helps reground you, and then gives you a spot to like, all right, that means I'm here, I got to focus on this, and then when I do that well enough, then this next thing happens. But I'm not there yet, so that's for another time. And then when I am there, he's going to show me exactly what I need to do to then go on to the next thing. But that's way above my pay grade. What I'm working on is way back over here, and simple enough and hard enough. So that's my focus. And so he writes this whole thing down, and he's referencing it, and he's talking us through each little part. And then right at the end, and he stands up, and everybody's getting up, and I can see people taking out their phones to like, quick, gotta snag a picture of this whiteboard. He grabs the eraser, and with like a glee, he knows he's getting somebody all worked up by doing this. He starts to erase it, and people are like, no, I want to take a picture of it first. And he just kind of smiles and just starts erasing all wholesale, just starts taking it down. All except for the very first chunk, which is really, that's kind of the important bit. That's the good stuff to know, because we're really working on those things. And I was surprised he didn't just erase all of it, honestly. But to hear the crowd just go, oh, and I couldn't help. I was cackling. I was laughing out loud, because that stuff's not going to magically progress me. What's going to do that is the day in and day out, the nitty gritty, doing the work as sincere as I can, and just pushing that boundary. So anyway, I think I've ranted about that part enough. This year, more than other years, I was able to go out to get food. Like, I actually had a little bit of a food budget, which was kind of nice. Don't get me wrong, we still brought a cooler full of like prepared meals and stuff, because I can't eat out all that much. But I had a bit of a food budget, and so we went out to a restaurant a couple times, and it was some of the other students there, and it was wonderful. We went to this nice German place, which, Mike, if you're watching, that French onion soup, German, that onion soup with the thick cheese, That was awesome. The burger was great, don't get me wrong, but man, that cheese. Ooh. And went out to another restaurant and went to a Chinese restaurant with a Chinese student. And so it was really kind of fun. She was pointing out what everything was, and that was delicious. That was really good. And just meeting more really fun people, more good people that want to do this sincerely and then train like the dickens with them is exciting. It's exhilarating. We'd go back to the hotel room and just, pour out a nice little glass of gin and just turn off for a little while, then maybe later watch some like Family Feud or something. Just going to that absolute limit and then seeing what happens. It was a lot, but it was a lot of fun. And that very last day, it was a little warmer in there than the other days. I don't know that the AC was completely working. It was on a Saturday, so I think maybe they just and they shut it off. And we held the squat for, I'm gonna guess, half hour. I'm just throwing out a guess. And I mean, my feet went numb somewhere probably 10 minutes in or something. And then that numbness and the tingly started climbing up my shins and up my calves. And by the end of it, basically from the waist down, I was just numb. Numb's not even the right word. It was just this prickly, like steel wool kind of sensation, which was almost overwhelming, almost. But that damn word kept repeating in my mind of stay, just stay. And so I did. And he was, during this, by the way, he was having people ask him questions. He said, you guys need a distraction. Ask me more questions. Somebody say something. Just talk, basically. And that sucked. That really sucked. Because every time somebody would start talking, my attention would try to split between what's happening and that person's question. Because of course I want to hear what's going on. And that made it worse somehow. The sensation just ramped up and became harder to deal with. So anytime there was a lull in a question, I could kind of sink back in, take stock of what's happening, and just kind of marinate in it. And man, by the end, I was starting to like tilt in different directions. I don't know if my legs were completely giving out or if something else was trying to contract and grab for control. I'm not exactly sure, but right before he had to stand up, I was starting to just fall over, and I thought I was going to just hit the floor at some point, and that would have been kind of funny, I guess, but that's right about when he, all right, everybody pop up, and of course he just stands up like it's nothing. I tried. I thought, if you stood up, I got to try and be gangster here, and I want to try and stand up, and my legs did not listen. And so I had that little moment of, how do I get up? So I just rocked back a little bit and plopped on my butt, let my legs flap out in front of me, and when I thought they were ready to stand up, I stood up. And then, that feeling like when you're on the can for too long, and you have to sit there and let all the pins and needles move through, and just, it was that for probably 5 minutes. It was a lot. And then we did standing. And somehow that made standing more tolerable. So maybe that was his play. But I felt like people were specifically checking me. And it wasn't just Adam that was coming by and correcting things, but every now and again an instructor would walk by and make sure that, like, say my glutes were released or my abdomen was released. At one point, I don't exactly remember who it was, but we're in standing posture and everything is just on fire. Everything feels like it wants to just panic, and so I'm just really staying with it as best I can. And somebody comes up and they take their fingers like this and they just jam it, like kind of a quick jab at my abdomen to make sure that I wasn't just clenching and trying to grit and bear down. And I wasn't, thankfully. And it just went boink. Okay, maybe I passed that test, cool. And just, there's a lot of little things like that. Everybody coming up, and it wasn't only people that had seen the videos, but other people that I'd just seen at other camps coming up, and they give me hugs, and oh, it's good to see you, how you been, how's the training been, and just, it's so wholesome in that way to really be in a room of people rooting for each other to push themselves to that boundary, and I'm very grateful for that. So, and one other thing that was kind of interesting, the last day went through an application of I think it was single whip, and as he likes to say, if I ever stop contradicting myself, find a new instructor. And it sounds like almost any other instructor that would be kind of an excuse, but for him, no, it's not. It's just, it's how the training goes. It's how the system works, and it works very well. So after almost an entire week of bashing martial artists, he was, oh, they want to play fight, they want to do this, and he asked the crowd, who here in the last year has actually been in a fight, like violence? And it's like nobody, right? Because getting in a fight, like an actual fight, not like a combat sport or sparring, but somebody attacks you and you have to defend yourself. You actually have to do violence on somebody else. That's very, very rare, as well it should be. Like, it's not something that you want to have happen. So he was poking at martial artists because, it's all play or this, it was fun. So then the last day, it's like, all right, so now we're going to go through an application of single whip, and it's going to be a takedown. A very, very martial look at this. And I also think it was probably just fun for him too. He seemed to really be enjoying himself. And wouldn't you know it, he says, all right, this one's going to be a takedown. He looks right at me and goes, come. Oh, crap. Here we go. I've been taken down in some pretty interesting ways, thrown and dropped and tripped and locks and all sorts of different things. This was different. This was a pretty gruesome experience. Not that he did it like hard and like it hurt, but man, I could tell that if you put anything more behind it, that's it. Like, I'd just be done. So that was really fun. And he had everybody pair up, and we're doing that. And then he had me do it to him, and no pressure, right? Because it's not just kind of a technical where this goes where and when to shift this and this hand does this, but we're talking internal. So while your body is trying to do all these different things that I'm semi-used to doing something close to that, you're also meant to use the main mechanic of release to make this whole thing come together. And if I mess it up, he's gonna be the first to know. Which, of course, I screwed it up bits here or there and whatnot, but I made it work in the way that I could, and I was pretty happy with that. And I almost kicked myself a little bit partway through because I was making what I consider a really rookie mistake, but at the same time, whenever I go into these things, whether it's a martial application of something or not, I try to really empty the cup, as I say, from other styles that I know, and just approach this as something fresh and new, because I don't understand it. It's not something that I know. I haven't been doing this for 25 or whatever years, so I try to approach it like that. I don't want to bring in karate to this because it's not karate, and it's not going to help me. It's going to probably slow me down or even just stop my progress. Or stepping in a certain way. And in my karate training, going for like a takedown, you want to be really close, and you want to align your leg kind of a certain way in relation to theirs, or hip with theirs, stuff like that. And that's what I didn't do for one of them or something. And somebody pointed that out, and I thought, shit, how did I not instinctively just, because I'm not thinking in that way at all. So it was like, it kind of kicking myself, but at the same time, like, well, maybe I'm more happy that I wasn't thinking like a karate person in that moment. So I'd rather mess it up in that way. Thank you to everybody that came up and was talking about these videos and had said, I love those videos, or you said this or this. It's just, it's really fun to have that kind of interaction. So, and for anyone that I even a bit inspired to go to one of these things through these videos, thanks for doing it. Thanks for really taking that step and trying it out. It was really fun to work with everybody. There's a good few people that were asking about arches of the feet. And of course the guy that showed me how to do it was there, but he was also really busy. He was adjusting people, and his students were there, and it's go, 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 go. So I had a chat with a few of those people, and for anyone that's curious about that, those videos that I was mentioning, I'm going to post a link down in the description of this video, just as kind of a get more eyes on it kind of a thing, because it's very, very helpful information. Like I said, this is going to be just kind of all over the place here. But somebody I was really excited to see again is a man by the name of Lee. And Lee he's a fun guy. Just really fun to talk to, really fun to work with. He's very gentle in his touch and really skilled. And we were chatting back and forth, and he was talking about Burning Man, and we're just going back and forth. This guy's a blast. He's a hoot. And so he was showing me a lot of really good stuff and explaining things and having me do different things and showing me new ways of approaching these same ideas that I'm working on. And so I have no idea if Lee sees these at all, but if you do, thank you. I appreciate that. That was very helpful. And he had me push with somebody specifically that she really stands out as like one of the highlights of people I did push hands with. And it's really just because she approached push hands, I think, in a really good way. A lot of times when people do push hands, you'll look over and you'll see two guys, and it's like two bison just like butting heads. They'll start like kind of gentle, and then somebody pushes, and then they push, and they lock up, and they kind of go this way, and then they twist them down, or the person does all this like matrix stuff to try and avoid getting pushed, and things that are antithetical to the training altogether, and just kind of undo a bunch of things, and just, it's not a good test of where you actually are. But this lady that he had me push with was really slow, really, really gentle, and very focused on what she was doing. And she wasn't the only person I pushed with that was like this, by the way, but she just kind of stands out a little bit. I think her name was Sarah? My memory for names is really bad, so I apologize. But when we're pushing, every now and again, she would just kind of pause, and I could feel where she was contracting, where things were a little bit tight, and then I would feel that little bit of, okay, and she would kind of fix the error, and then keep going, and I'd go up a little bit further, and then, something else tighten up, and then kind of take a second, and then release it. She was actively working on what she had been working on all day, and trying not to lose it or throw it away or ignore it. And that's what I look for in a really good push partner. Somebody that's trying to use the things that they just learned. Like I said, there's quite a few people that I pushed with that were like that, but she was very focused on it, and that made for a great time. Speaking of jumping around a good bit, during the takedown demonstration, and actually a little before that too, thankfully he really dialed back the power, like none at all, just just emptied out all sorts of, like, any amount of power behind these things. But at one point, we were doing this 2-person drill, and Adam wanted to show me, some of the things I was doing wrong, and here's how to do it better. Try this, do this, and then I think he just kind of wanted to play for a second, so he drops me onto the ground with like 2 fingers. I think it really was his 2 index fingers gently touching one of my forearms, and just went boop, and I just slammed down, and he kind of dances me over this way a little bit, and just kind of like I was a puppet. And the only thing I can really do is kind of laugh. And there's a few times when I was trying to get my arm out from underneath his hands, but it wasn't happening. Like, things, when he makes contact, everything just kind of locks up. And I want to get released enough to where that doesn't happen maybe so easily, but still it's kind of fun. So I'm actively trying to do this, to like unstick myself, and it's not happening at all. And after probably a second of trying that, I look up just in time to see his fist going right at my forehead. And you know that JoJo meme where it kind of like freeze frames and then the music kicks on, to be continued? I had that little moment where I thought, I'm kind of frozen here anyway. I can't really move. I just hope that there's no oomph behind it, but I guess if there is, nothing I can do about it. So I kind of hope he doesn't kill me. And he didn't. It was like a rap on the forehead, just poking fun. And then later when we were doing the takedown demonstration, he's like, and if you're more martially minded, or for those martial artists, once you're in the inside like this, you can bang, and he does like a back fist kind of thing to the ribs. And again, no real power behind it, just kind of the limb hitting, which thankfully. And as he did that, I realized he's going to hit me a lot more really quick. So just be really still for a moment, and sure enough, just bam, 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 just peppered the side of my head, and then took me down. So it's one of those moments where you just have to kind of dust it off and go, well, all right, to kind of wrap everything up. All in all, amazing camp. That was really great. Great to see everybody. Great to train that way. Great to make that kind of progress and get that kind of correction, so I can then move on and incorporate that into my daily practice. And just a good refocusing, coming back feeling sore, worked, but revitalized, and ready for a whole nother week of training. As I'm recording this, it's like Wednesday, and so I've already had another few days of training on top of that, and it's really improved. The difference I'm noticing in my daily training is pretty significant, and so I'm very excited to keep going. I'm really excited to see what kind of progress I'm able to make. Sounds like he's doing another camp next year, so I intend to train my ass off and get more critiques next time. So, but again, thank you to everybody that came up and wanted to chat and talk and train and go through things, and tell me that they like these videos, or they like some aspect of it. I really appreciate that. That's really awesome. And big thank you to my Patreon supporters. I noticed that there's a few more of you now, now that I've actually come back. But really, thank you guys. That's greatly appreciated. That extra motivation really helps us all keep going. Helps me keep talking about this stuff. To all the instructors that were there at the camp, not just Sifu Adam, but Jim, Curtis, Steph, like everybody that was there, you guys were so helpful. Thank you. And see you in a year, hey?